It has been an interesting week for horror news, with some new updates on the Leprechaun franchise, the Toxic Avenger, and the upcoming The Strangers Chapter 2. Now let's get into it.
Fresh meat.
Kicking this video off with a story that just kind of grabbed my eye. Ha! Aha! God, I love puns. The eyes are the best part. Greta Lee directing a movie adaptation of Monica Kim's novel. I had never heard about it until this news popped up on my phone today, but it's an interesting story that grabbed me big time. That title, The Eyes Are the Best Part. I mean, just think about that for a second. That could mean like anything, that could be about anything. Cannibalism is what comes to mind, and you would be right if you guessed that. But still, interesting title that I absolutely loved. Really gripped me immediately, and I'm just like, I have to cover this in some way, shape, or form. But let's talk a little bit about this novel. It was published in June of 2024 by Erewhon Books. The novel is described as a story about a family falling apart, as well as the making of a female serial killer with a Korean-American perspective. Set in Los Angeles, the book tells the story of a woman named Ji-won, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, apologies, whose life unravels after her father has an affair and then leaves the family. She finds an inventive way to satiate her rage and hunger. Satiate definitely makes me think we're eating people. We're killing and eating people in this movie. That's wild. Oh, and did I mention the poster where eyeballs are on chopsticks? Yeah, I think I know where this is going. But let's talk about the New York Times review saying that it's a violent, smart, gruesome, and wildly original novel. The novel pulls readers into a horrific world of murder and cannibalism, bam, cannibalism, while also critiquing misogyny, exploring Asian fetishization and stereotypes, sharing what it's like to navigate two cultures, and telling a touching story of a family in turmoil. So wholesome and emotional, but also brutal and totally fucked up, and commentary driven, which I'm all about. I'm very intrigued. This is a new novel that seems a little pretty groundbreaking, seems like it's an interesting new perspective on that kind of story. I am all about this personally. This is something that had caught my eye and just I had to talk about in a new video. So definitely look out for this movie adaptation of a really interesting new novel. Maybe give it a read in the meantime. We have two big Toxic Avenger updates today, and they are both outlandish and insane, just like the movies. You know, I feel like that fits the tone of Toxic Avenger. So, Mr. Melvin trailer. A Toxic Avenger sequel reconstruction premieres next week at Traumathon. So, for those who don't know, the original Toxic Avenger sequels, 2 and 3, this was all supposed to be one big epic sequel to the original film, but they ended up splitting it into two different movies because they just had so much footage. So basically what ended up happening is they've recut the two films into just one long movie called Mr. Melvin. And it's going to premiere literally next week at Traumathon, which is really exciting. We have Macon Blair, who directed the new movie that comes out this August, talking a bit about it, really hyping this thing up. I guess it's a really cool, not adaptation, but a new just cuts of these two films put together. What is it? It's 127 minutes long, too, which is wild. It's an epic. It's an epic, essentially, a continuation to the original. We even had the original Toxie actor Ron Fazio provide new voiceover for Mr. Melvin, which is cool. So a lot of things were done to make this happen. You can currently watch the trailer for it here, which just basically shows, if you've seen 2 and 3, you've basically already seen this movie, but this is just a different kind of cut of it that makes it more closer to what the original version of this was supposed to be. It's also being titled Mr. Melvin because was supposed to be the name of what this one long movie was going to be, but when they cut it into part 2 and 3, then they gave it just those subtitles, essentially. Really excited to see what this ends up being. I've actually never even seen the sequels. I've only seen the first one, so I'm actually really excited to see this new cut of it. I wonder if I should watch the original sequels first and then this, you know what I mean? I almost feel like I should go see what that's all about, but this seems to be Lloyd Kaufman's original vision for where he wanted to take it next, and I'm excited to see it. And if you thought that story was cool, this one is even more crazy and bizarre. So the Toxic Avenger, specifically talking about the remake now, will be the first unrated horror movie to host its own SDCC Hall H panel. Now, if you don't know, San Diego Comic-Con, typically during a Hall H panel, this is for your new Avengers movies, your new massive blockbusters that are likely going to make $1 billion. We're talking that ballpark of movies. But now the unrated, smaller indie release of the Toxic Avenger remake is getting a Hall H panel. And this is because of a few different reasons that this Bloody Disgusting article gets into. Essentially, a lot of the bigger studios aren't really as interested in doing a big panel this year at San Diego Comic-Con, so Bloody Disgusting and Cineverse have slipped in there to to take the stage before it hits theaters on August 29th of 2025. Who will be attending? The writer-director Macon Blair, Lloyd Kaufman, who's one of the co-founders of Troma. You wouldn't have the Toxic Avenger without him. That's really cool. He's going to be there. And you also have the, as they say, the all-star cast of this new movie, including Peter Dinklage, the Toxic Avenger himself, Elijah Wood, Jacob Tremblay, and Taylor Page, all joining alongside them. So this is going to be an insane panel. It happens on Thursday, July 24th, from 5:30 to 6:30. They have an hour at San Diego Comic-Con to talk about this. But that's so exciting, in my opinion. I mean, that is actually just such a cool, huge feat for a little tiny horror movie that could, essentially, here. So it's so cool to see that happen. Guys, if you have not seen anything about the new Toxic Avenger, I couldn't recommend it more. This is a movie that I'm highly anticipating. Definitely look up the trailer, go to this panel if you're in San Diego. Lots to love about the new Toxic Avenger, man. I am so excited. Troma is alive and thriving. We're loving it, man. We may not have a new Paranormal Activity movie on the way, unfortunately, but we do have a new stage play. Talking a little bit about this, which is, it almost sounds a little disappointing the way I said that, didn't it? It's like, I want a new movie. Stage play is cool, whatever, but I want a new film. The play follows James and Lou, a couple who moved from Chicago to London to escape their past. Upon discovering a haunting presence in their home, they use a camera to document the unsettling shadow in their midst. They're also, if you watch the trailer for this, they're advertising it as just a very similar way to Insidious, which feels fitting, I guess. These are movies that came out around the same time, but feels more like an Insidious way to market this, as people are haunted versus like places. And that's going to be a big thing with this one. I guess that still works with Paranormal Activity. I mean, this is kind of a, believe it or not, the Paranormal Activity running story is more of a family thing, which is interesting. But I guess that's kind of the vibe of this stage play. Who knows? Maybe we get an adaptation of this into some sort of new movie. I'm honestly hankering for it. I just watched Paranormal Activity Next of Kin again, a crazy underrated straight-to-streaming movie in this franchise that serves as the seventh entry that I don't think a lot of people really liked, but I'm a weirdo who did. I absolutely love that movie quite a bit. I showed it to my fiance recently, and she actually enjoyed it too. And she's a big fan of this franchise. Never saw that one. I'm really excited to see what else comes from this franchise. Hopefully we get an actual 8th installment sometime soon, but you never know. For now, we have a stage play. It's something. We got an official poster for the new Dark Trip from Osgood Perkins, a film called Keeper. It also comes alongside a really creepy poem that reads, "I don't want to play in your yard. I don't like you anymore. You'll be sorry when you see me sliding down our cellar door." I don't know what any of that means, but it sounds creepy as hell, and I'm all about it. I'm also loving this poster. Can we scroll down to the full thing? Here we go. It's that black hole face. Creepy. I don't like you anymore. Kind of works with the plot synopsis of this one that reads, Keeper follows a couple as they escape for a romantic anniversary weekend at a secluded cabin. When Malcolm, played by Rossif Sutherland, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, suddenly returns to the city, Liz, played by Tatiana Maslany, finds herself isolated and in the presence of an unspeakable evil that unveils the cabin's horrifying secrets. Imagine she's just stuck there with that one clip from She-Hulk where she starts twerking. No, I'm kidding. Tatiana Maslany, She-Hulk. She's the lead in this new movie. We just saw her in Osgood Perkins' latest film, which came out this year, The Monkey. She played the mom that just miraculously died. I don't know if miraculous is really the right word there, but that was an insane role for her there. She's taken on maybe even a bigger one here, which is really cool. Sounds like this is a smaller cast, too. It really only seems like a couple of people. And from the very quick little teaser trailer we got that played after The Monkey, which I don't know if you guys stayed and saw that when that was in theaters. That was creepy, man. That seemed like a creepy little introduction to this. It seems like it has a darker vibe than even the last two movies from Osgood. The Monkey was a little more comedic, right? I mean, it was basically a horror comedy. This one seems to be much more of a straight-on horror movie. This feels more comparable to Longlegs in terms of the vibes we're getting from the recent trailers. So if you were someone who didn't like The Monkey for being too silly, you wanted more of Longlegs, this movie might be for you. The screenplay comes from Nick Leppard, who also wrote this year's Dangerous Animals, probably one of my favorite horror films of the year. So with Osgood Perkins directing that, I feel like this is going to be another hit from the guy. We don't have a release date, but it's expected in theaters sometime later on this year, and it'll mark Osgood's literally second movie that comes out this year, which is kind of insane. This is also his third collaboration with Neon, and so far all of those have been hits. So I'm expecting the same thing from this one, and your boy's going to be covering it until this one gets a release date and we get to see it in theaters. So I'm really hyped for it. Look out for Keeper dropping sometime, likely this spooky season. Leprechaun Revenge. Ooh, I've been wanting to talk about this for some time. Now, the Terrifier producers, the Fuzz on the Lens guys, they have been busy lately. I unfortunately did not have time to cover the fact that they're getting a sequel to their really well done but sort of underrated film Stream that came out last year, which if you guys have not seen that yet, and you're Terrifier fans, sit down and put that one on. It's sick as fuck. I liked it quite a bit. But now Michael Levy, Jason Levy, all the people who are a part of Fuzz on the Lens, they are lobbying hard to get on board the Leprechaun franchise. Now, last we heard, a guy named Felipe Vargas was going to direct some sort of reimagining of the Leprechaun series in some sort of new movie. A script exists and Lionsgate wants to make it, but Felipe dropped out of that project very recently. Now, Michael Levy from the Terrifier films, he plays Will the Exterminator in the original Terrifier and also was a big part of the sequel and the third film's success, is lobbying hard to be the next director of the Leprechaun series. And he makes a really good point to do so with this new short, man. It's only like 9 minutes long, but go over to their YouTube channel now and check it out. It's good. I feel like it captures the energy of the original, but has some Terrifier level kills. The blood and the brutality of this short is phenomenal, but it also has that silliness that resonates so well throughout this entire series. So I personally feel like they did a great job. It also has Mark Holton reprising his role as Ozzy, which this is his third time returning as that character, hilariously enough. And Lyndon Porco reprising his role as the Leprechaun from Leprechaun Returns specifically, which is, I think that's the 2018 movie, if I'm not mistaken. But this is just such a cool and bizarre thing that just happened kind of out of nowhere. And I'm so happy that it's that Michael Levy is trying to make this happen. I think he would be a great director for this project. Stream, the movie we were just talking about, has that horror comedy vibe and element to it that I feel would work so well in translation to the Leprechaun franchise. So I think this team would be perfect for this series. Let's hope it happens. Levy for Leprechaun. Send out the hashtag, baby. A brand new teaser has come out for the highly anticipated Together, the new neon horror film that seems to be just going absolutely wild on the internet. People are crazy excited for this one. It has a really bizarre and weird legal lawsuit going on right now too, and let me tell you, drama sells, my friends, because people are talking about this one all over the place. I'm really excited for Together, and this new teaser trailer kind of hits on some of the things that are very cryptic and bizarre about the movie. I will say, opposed to something like Weapons coming out later on this year, we don't know too much about that one. That one seems very cryptic and odd and just mysterious. We can come up with whatever theory we want about that, and anyone really has a talking point there, I feel. Together feels a little more concrete in what it's going to get into. It seems like it's a film that's all about codependency, troubles amidst an ongoing relationship, and maybe even the anxiety that something like that creates, being committed to one person for the rest of your life. This movie seems to be hitting on the horrors of that, and you can kind of see that in this image right here. Now, the big thing about this new teaser, the reason I wanted to talk about it so much, is that it goes through like this photo album kind of showing all these different disturbing images of either, this couple played by Dave Franco and Allison Brie kind of in each other's arms and loving each other, whatever, and then it cuts to something really scary. And I feel like that's totally the vibe of this new movie. It's a romantic comedy, but you mix in some like genuinely terrifying art house horror into the mix. And one of the big things that this new trailer does really well, in my opinion, is it shows you these like photos of the couple when they're older. And they have like these really scary looks on their faces like this. This is like the first of many photos in this new teaser that shows like an older version of Allison Brie and Dave Franco in bed together. And I feel like there's something to be said about that image. This couple who's worried about, am I with the right person? Is codependency something I can always rely on? The anxiety that comes along with that. I feel like the image of seeing like a scary face, like it almost feels like a nightmare. Seeing like your own self that's old and with a scary face like that, and sometime in the future. I feel like there's a lot to be said about something along those lines. So the imagery is powerful for this one. I'm really loving what I'm seeing here. Director Michael Shanks again is got a 100% Rotten Tomatoes score in this movie, which is cool as fuck. But he also got a crazy lawsuit, someone claiming that they came up with this idea before. So I guess it's up to you whether you believe him or not. He put out a whole statement talking about how he's been basically working on this one since 2019. I personally believe him. Maybe you don't, but we'll see. We'll see what ends up coming of this lawsuit. I'll still say this is easily one of my most anticipated movies of the year regardless, and I'm really excited to see what comes of this one. We're going to see it at the end of the month on July 31st. Look out for it in theaters. M3GAN 2.0 is really trying to save face. They are teasing an unrated version with brand new scenes coming to either the physical and digital releases basically of this movie when it drops. Now this is a very similar situation to what happened with the original M3GAN when it went to I believe it was Peacock a couple weeks after its theatrical run. It was released with like a more gory sequences. It really wasn't much to write home about. I guess they had to cut it to make it R-rated, but it really wasn't like a travesty, like something like Friday the 13th Part 7, for instance, where like all the gory scenes were cut and the movie really was weakened for that reason. But this might be something crazier because this film wasn't even really a horror movie. You know, I feel like there's an argument to be made that it's kind of just a weird sci-fi commentary heavy adventure that really missed for people at the audience at the box office, I should say. Really missed with the audience at the box office. There we go. Words are hard, ladies and gentlemen. It has only made 30 million so far compared to the 180 million the original was able to pull in during its entire theatrical run. And it doesn't really look up here for M3GAN 2.0 with more and more big releases dropping every single week of this month. It is going to be an onslaught for any other kind of smaller movie to get pushed out this month, unfortunately. So I don't see M3GAN 2.0 crossing the 50 million mark, if I'm being totally honest. The other thing I'll say about this, though, is that we do still have Soulmate coming. That movie's not canceled. It is still being put out this January, and it is being described as more of a horror film. So this could be like a weird little hit. You know, this spin-off film could be their ace in the hole. What if it takes off? You know, what if it makes as much money as the original M3GAN, does really good, and people want more from this series? We've also had teases from Jason Blum saying that, hey, you know, maybe the other characters from M3GAN are going to pop up in that film. Maybe. I don't know. Sounds like, yeah, probably those characters are going to pop up sometime. So something is happening still with the M3GAN universe. I wouldn't say the fire has completely died out quite yet. Obviously, they want this movie to make more money, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen, which is really unfortunate. But definitely look out for this Soulmate movie dropping at the top of 2026. Maybe if it does well, maybe if it's received well, they could relight that flame, get this spark moving. There's a brand new trailer for BAMBI The Reckoning, and like you don't even have to watch it. Can I be so real with you guys? Like I've been very lenient on my criticisms of Jagged Edge Productions, but I just don't know if I'm loving everything I'm seeing about this one. The new trailer for BAMBI The Reckoning, it's basically just a bunch of people running away from a CGI deer. I'm just going to be so real with you. There's nothing else to that new trailer. It seems like it promises some brutal sequences. It's obviously going to be an insane creature feature, but not a lot else to write home about there. This is a really funny thing coming from is it the president? Yeah, the president of ITN Studios, saying that they're excited to bring the first live action Bambi film ever to the screens. Of course, a horror version. That's true. That's legit. This is the first time we've ever had a live action Bambi. Disney didn't even get to that one first, which is kind of surprising. The movie is due out on July 25th, coming up in just a few weeks here. I'm excited for it, but I just don't know if it's going to be my favorite entry of the Pooniverse. Kind of just looks like a typical public domain horror with a crazy CGI creature running around, but we'll see. I think my big draw to Neverland Nightmare and even Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey too is it had some really interesting villains that were able to put out some interesting talking points, some interesting commentary that I really liked. But this one, it just kind of seems like exactly what you'd expect from a public domain horror film. But I'm hoping to be proven wrong this July. We'll see in a couple of weeks here when this one comes out. And finally, a story that majority of you are probably the most excited for. The Strangers Chapter 2 had a brand new poster come out on 4th of July. It's not a lot to write home about, but I do find it interesting that they're marketing it with the holiday. Are they just desperate for people to see Chapter 2? I don't know, but they're calling it Land of the Free, Home of the Strange, which is kind of sick. I mean, I have to admit, despite my disinterest in this series after what the slop that they put out in chapter 1. This is a cool looking poster, I have to admit. Kind of sick. I'm liking the way it's looking. Let's talk about our official synopsis for the sequel. The strangers are back, more brutal and relentless than ever. Okay, buddy. Well, we'll see about that. When they learn that one of their victims, Maya, played by Madeleine Pesch, is still alive, they return to finish what they've started. With nowhere to run and no one to trust, Maya must survive another horrific chapter of terror as the strangers, driven by senselessness, unceasing purpose, pursue that's so ridiculous. Pursue her, more than willing to kill anyone who stands in their way. Ooh, spooky. I don't know, man. I'm so just my interest has waned in The Strangers at this point. Chapter 1 was atrocious, probably my least favorite film that I saw last year, and I am just so not thrilled about what's coming next. But I'm staying open-minded. I want to be surprised because I love the first two Strangers movies. I think the first one is my all-time favorite home invasion thriller. Like, it really scares the hell out of me every time I see it. I think the Strangers are great villains, and my problem with these movies is that they're taking away the coolest thing from the Strangers. Let's just be real here. These are three characters in typical masks. I mean, it's nothing special. Man in the Mask is he's a guy with a burlap sack on his head, and it's creepy. It's whatever. It's a spirit Halloween costume at best. But what makes the Strangers scary? It's the fact that they have no real motive. They're not going after anybody in particular. They're not, it's not like Scream where it's like, oh, I'm going after you because my parents' relationship was ruined because of you. No, the motive here is just, you were home. We just wanted to kill somebody. That means the Strangers could be going after anybody. That's terrifying. That means the Strangers could be at your door after you watch this movie when it's over. And that, to me, is the most scary motive you could possibly have for killers in a horror flick. These movies, the goal seems to be to explain who they are, explain where they come from and what they're doing and why. And that, to me, completely rips away the coolest thing about them. This isn't Michael Myers. This isn't Jason Voorhees. It's not Freddy Krueger. It's not that cool of a design. I'm just going to be totally real. I love the Strangers, but they're not really anything special in terms of what to look at. And we're just making this whole trilogy just trying to explain them. And I feel like that is completely missing the point, ripping away what makes them so special and so significant in the horror space and reducing them to the spirit Halloween costumes that they essentially are. So I'm just really hoping that Strangers Chapter 2 and 3 decided to leave that in the past, the whole setup to potentially explaining who they are, just leave that behind and just tell two cool little stories featuring Madeleine Pesch getting chased by these characters. I really hope that's all it is, but I don't think that's what it's going to be. So while my interest has really disintegrated essentially with this franchise, maybe it hasn't for you. And maybe you're excited to see this one coming out this spooky season. September 26th, it's coming out 2 days after my birthday, which is crazy. In the meantime, though, go to this visitvenusoregon.com. Gives you some clues on what's going on in the next entry. Maybe you can come up with some crazy theories. Let me know down in the comments below what your guys' thoughts are. So which smaller story was your favorite from today's video? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching. Please subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.